A pen, they say, is mightier than the sword. But what if a pen held an insidious power, a malevolent force from its previous owner? In the annals of writing instruments, there is one pen that stands out, its ink not merely a medium for thoughts, but a conduit for a dark force. This pen, unremarkable in appearance, was once a trusted companion of an infamous author, a man known for his unsettling tales that left readers with a chill of dread. The author, a recluse, found solace in the company of his pen, pouring out tales of terror that echoed his own tortured psyche. His stories, disturbingly vivid and horrifyingly real, were a reflection of the darkness that consumed him. His name was whispered with a shiver, his books read with a sense of morbid fascination and fear. As his tales grew darker, so did his mind. The author's descent into madness was as swift as it was terrifying. His stories took on an eerie prescience, predicting grim events with uncanny accuracy. The line between fiction and reality blurred, and the author was consumed by the very horror he'd created. In his final days, the author's life mirrored his most disturbing tales. His suicide, shrouded in mystery and speculation, was an eerie echo of his macabre writings. The author was found dead, his lifeless hand still clutching the pen that had penned countless tales of horror. In his death, the author left behind a legacy of fear and unease, but he also left behind the pen, the inanimate accomplice to his terrifying tales. The pen, tainted by the despair and insanity of its previous owner, was an object of dread, its ink, a vessel for the author's tormented soul. And so, the pen, drenched in the despair and insanity of its previous owner, found its way to an unsuspecting writer, Jacob Timothy. The pen was ready to write again, its dark history unbeknownst to its new owner. The stage was set for a new tale of horror, one that would prove all too real. Enter Jacob Timothy, a struggling writer, plagued by writer's block and the constant rejection of his work. Jacob was a man of dreams, dreams of crafting stories that would captivate the world, dreams of seeing his name etched on the spine of a bestseller. But the reality was far from his dreams, a harsh landscape of crumpled paper and unfulfilled aspirations. Jacob lived in a world of words that refused to flow, as if an invisible dam held them back. He was caught in a labyrinth of narratives that seemed to lose their way before they could reach the paper. The relentless rejection letters were a constant reminder of his unfulfilled ambitions, a cruel mirror reflecting his failure. Every night, he'd lie in bed, his mind teeming with stories, characters, and dialogues. But when he sat at his desk, the words would play hide and seek with him. His pen, once his trusted ally, felt like a foreign object in his hand. The blank page in front of him seemed to mock him, a white void that refused to be filled with his stories. As the moon took over the sky, the pen took on a life of its own. In the stillness of the night, when the world was hushed and the only sounds were the soft whispers of the wind, the pen would stir. It was the hour when the most profound thoughts and darkest dreams often came alive. And for Jacob, it was no different. His dreams, once a source of inspiration and solace, now turned into twisted nightmares, grotesque and unsettling. Each night, he would find himself in the grip of these harrowing dreams, a silent spectator to the horrors unfolding before his eyes. He would wake up, his heart pounding, sweat-soaked sheets clinging to his trembling body, the chilling echoes of his nightmares still ringing in his ears. But the true terror was yet to come. For every morning, as the sun rose, casting long, ominous shadows in his room, he would find his nightmares inked onto paper. The pen, seemingly possessed, had taken his dreams, already twisted and disturbing, and written them down in an even more horrific form than the dream itself. It wasn't merely the retelling of his nightmares that sent chills down his spine. No, it was the way the pen wrote. It was as if the pen knew his deepest, darkest fears and brought them to life on the page. The words twisted and turned, creating terrifying tales that sent shivers down his spine. The pen didn't stop there. It began to write stories on its own when left unattended at night. Stories that were not born out of Jacob's dreams but seemed to predict or even cause tragic events. The line between fiction and reality blurred. Each story the pen wrote, each word it inked, seemed to draw Jacob deeper into a world of fear and uncertainty. Jacob was losing his mind, his dreams becoming his reality, and his reality a living nightmare. A week later, Jacob Timothy was found dead. The cause, a mystery yet to be solved. A chilling echo of the very tales that once flowed from the possessed pen, Jacob's demise was shrouded in an enigma. His body, discovered in the very room where he had spent countless nights wrestling with the pen's dark influence, bore no signs of foul play. Yet an aura of dread lingered, a silent testament to the unseen horrors that had unfolded. In the wake of his death, the manuscript that had been born from those tormented nights was unearthed. A chilling narrative, more disturbing than any dream Jacob had ever recounted, lay in wait within those pages. It was a masterpiece of horror, the likes of which the world had never known, a testament to the twisted genius of a man and his possessed pen. The manuscript was published posthumously, its release sending shockwaves through the literary world. Readers devoured the tale, drawn into the haunting world that Jacob had created, or rather, transcribed. It was an overnight sensation, catapulting Jacob posthumously to the pinnacle of literary success. His chilling narrative, a raw and brutal exploration of the human psyche's darkest corners, was hailed as a masterpiece. It was a bestseller, the book that every horror enthusiast was talking about, the book that everyone was reading, Jacob Timothy's first and last triumph. Yet, even in death, Jacob's story was not over. For within the confines of his study, the possessed pen lay dormant. It had spun its tale of terror, had seen its wielder rise and fall. But it was not done. The pen, with its insatiable thirst for narratives, began to stir once more. It yearned for a new hand to guide it, a new mind to ensnare. For the pen was not merely a tool, but a storyteller in its own right, a weaver of nightmares and a harbinger of doom. Jacob's story was over, but the pen had other plans. Like a dark omen, the pen vanished from Jacob's desk, only to appear somewhere else. The ink-stained harbinger of doom had left its mark on Jacob Timothy, and was now poised to bring its chilling tales of horror to another unsuspecting writer. In the aftermath of Jacob's untimely demise, the pen was nowhere to be found. It had disappeared as mysteriously as it had arrived. The investigators were puzzled. The house was turned upside down, yet there was no sign of the infamous pen. It was as if it had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only the chilling stories it had penned and the memory of its last victim. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the pen's story seemed to fade, becoming just another forgotten tale. Yet the pen had not forgotten. It had merely moved on, seeking a new victim, a new author to continue its eerie legacy. In a quaint little town, far from the hustle and bustle of the city, the pen found its new home. It arrived in a package, no return address, no note, just the pen. Its new owner, an aspiring writer, was thrilled with the antique pen, oblivious to its dark history. The pen, now in the hands of a new writer, waited patiently for the night. As the moon rose and the world fell asleep, the pen began to move. The dark ink flowed onto the paper, forming words and sentences, stories that chilled the spine and curdled the blood. The pen had found its new victim, and so the cycle continues. The pen, with its insatiable thirst for storytelling and its eerie ability to predict or cause tragic events, continues its journey. It moves from one writer to another, leaving a trail of chilling tales and tragic ends. Who would be the next author of the pen's chilling tales? Only time would tell as the pen continued its macabre journey.